Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Let's see what we have on the dock today. First, the judge in the Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow matter, well, he agrees with me on that motion to reconsider. Jussie Smollett's trial begins this week. Ghislaine Maxwell's trial begins today. Can she win? An interesting situation caught on video. Is it self-defense or something else? Good-natured humor, or is it an assault? And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Today is Monday, November 29th, 2021. Let's get to the docket. First, the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell matter. Now, nothing has really taken place in this case other than, well, Lori Vallow is at the state hospital, hopefully being restored to competency so that she can come back and face charges. We don't have a trial date set, but we have a hearing to set a trial date. That'll take place in early December, but the trial probably won't take place until next December. Well, as you may recall, the district attorney had their motion denied as it related to the change of venue. They said, yes, we agree that the change of venue should take place. However, we believe that we should bring a jury in, basically bust them in, put them up in a hotel, and let's keep them here in Madison County. The judge says, no, we're going to move to the other side of the state. The prosecutors then filed a motion to reconsider, saying, well, Judge, we didn't really have our ducks in a row on the day that we had the hearing that we knew about. And well, we'd like to present more information regarding how really expensive this is and the cost that's going to be incurred by the taxpayers. The judge said, yeah, let's vacate that hearing that we had set for additional hearings. And he basically said, hey, listen, this trial date could be so far out, we really don't know what's going to happen. And there are orders in place that jury trials may not be able to take place because of certain COVID restrictions. And so basically what the judge said was, this isn't ripe yet, which means it's something that the judge doesn't have to consider just yet. All right. You have what is ripe and what is moot. Is it ripe? Is it really at the stage where the judge has to actually decide something? And moot means, well, it's already been decided. There's no order that needs to be made by the judge. So really what the judge says, this isn't right. And basically, we'll just wait and see as things get closer. And then you can provide me some relevant data, not something that's really going to be probably at least a year old. So the judge basically said, hey, you had your shot. I'm not going to give you a new shot, but I'll revisit it down the road. I still think the judge is going to stick by his order. Why? Because judges don't like to change their mind. It makes them look weak. It makes them look indecisive. And in this particular case, he's ruled on something. Now, if we can just get a trial date, a motions hearing date, that'll be a hard date, which means we're actually going to go to hearings, then the case would finally move along. All right, next on the docket, we have the Jussie Smollett case. Remember that case? Yeah. Well, it goes back to January of 2019. That's when the former Empire actor Jussie Smollett told police that he was attacked in the middle of the night by two MAGA hat-wearing, racist, light-skinned men. He said he was walking to a Subway to buy a sandwich after returning home to Chicago from a work trip when he was attacked. Well, as we all know, the attackers were identified as the Osundario brothers from Nigeria. They told the police that they had been paid by Jussie Smollett $3,500 to stage the attack, which means they were paid to fake it, all right? Now, police said at the time that Smollett orchestrated this attack to boost his celebrity profile, and police charged Smollett with 16 counts of lying to police. Now, the charges were dropped by the Cook County State's attorney, Kim Fox. A year later, Smollett was charged again by a special prosecutor. And Smollett, who is black and openly gay, has maintained his innocence, insisting that he has been the victim of racist and homophobic attacks. His trial begins this week, nearly 3 years after he told the police that he was obviously beaten in this alleged fake attack. Now, Smollett arrived at the court this morning. Wrapped around his arm was his sister and his mother and a bodyguard. Now, the Nigerian brothers, the Osundario brothers, are expected to take the stand as witnesses in this trial. Now, jurors may see surveillance video from more than 4 dozen cameras that the police reviewed to trace the brothers' movements before and after the reported attack, as well as video showing the brothers purchasing the red hat, ski masks, and gloves from a beauty supply shop just hours earlier. But buried in nearly 500 pages of the Chicago Police Department reports is a statement from a woman who lived in the area who says she saw a white man with reddish-brown hair who appeared to be waiting for someone that night. She told a detective that when the man turned away from her, could see something hanging from underneath his jacket with what appeared to be a rope. Now, her comments could back up Smollett's contention that his attackers draped a makeshift noose around his neck. Further, if this woman testifies that the man was white, it could support Smollett's statements, which have been widely ridiculed because the brothers who come from Nigeria, well, they're black. Now, the $3,500 check that Smollett wrote for the brothers will be a key piece of evidence in the trial. The brothers say that was their fee for carrying out the fake attack, but Smollett has said that he wrote the check to pay one of them to work as his personal trainer. Now, Smollett, like I said, he was charged with 6 felony counts of disorderly conduct in February of 2020, a year after the incident. Each count carries a maximum prison sentence of 3 years, but even if he was convicted, he would more than likely get probation. Now, as you may recall, these original charges were dismissed by the district attorney, where he paid basically a forfeit of his bond, which was $10,000, and the case went away. A judge was asked to review the case, and a special prosecutor was appointed because of basically some alleged improprieties and some things that just weren't right by the Attorney General Kim Foxx, by the state's attorney, by the district attorney Kim Foxx, who had some ties to some of Jussie Smollett's friends. And she delegated the position to her number 2 deputy, but was still involved in the case, which looked fishy because she was supposed to have recused herself, but she really didn't recuse herself. So that's why the special prosecutor was brought in. We'll just have to wait and see how the trial goes. Obviously, Jussie Smollett is given the presumption of innocence and will announce the verdict when it comes back. All right, next on the docket, Ghislaine Maxwell. The trial begins. That's right, Ghislaine Maxwell's highly anticipated alleged sex trafficking trial began this morning in New York. Now, Maxwell, 59, is charged with recruiting and grooming underage girls for that man named Jeff to abuse from 1994 to 2004. Now, she faces up to 80 years in federal prison if she's found guilty. And unfortunately, the trial will not be live streamed because it is in federal court. As we know, or as we reported, Miss Maxwell has pled not guilty to all counts. She has spent the last year in a pretrial detention facility in Brooklyn, which has often been criticized for the conditions that she alleges that she has had to endure. A woman by the name of Sarah Ransom, one of the several women who have accused that guy named Jeff and Miss Maxwell of abuse, was seen arriving at the courthouse early Monday morning. Now, Miss Ransom claimed that she tried to escape that guy named Jeff's island through shark-infested waters after being allegedly assaulted in the sexual manner 3 times in one day. Ransom, however, will not be testifying in the trial. Now, Isabel Maxwell, Ghislaine's sister, was also seen arriving at the Thurgood Marshall United States Federal Courthouse this morning. Now, lawyers for Maxwell are expected to focus on undermining her accusers and distancing herself from that guy named Jeff. Now, there are a handful of ways that the defense could potentially win this case. First, now, Miss Maxwell has claimed that she's being used as a scapegoat for that man named Jeff, and he's avoided justice, obviously, by taking his own life while awaiting trial for his alleged crimes. Now, Miss Maxwell's lawyers are expected to emphasize that she was not charged in the 2 previous indictments against her ex-friend, that guy named Jeff. One example was when Jeff was jailed back in 2008 for 18 months for procuring an alleged child for inappropriate conduct in Florida, and Miss Ghislaine Maxwell was not charged. Now, because of that guy named Jeff's alleged suicide, Miss Maxwell's brother, Ian, is convinced authorities want to make an example of her. Of course they are, Ian. Somebody has to go to jail. This is embarrassing to lots of people that guy named Jeff was never brought to justice. Therefore, somebody's got to pay. Let's face it. Now, the brother is also saying that Ghislaine is paying a heavy price, a blood price, for any alleged crimes of her former lover and boss. Now, another route the defense could take is the desire for cash, right? We've mentioned this before in the 12 Undeniable Truths from a criminal defense attorney. It's always about the money. And when they say it's not about the money, ladies and gentlemen, that means it's really always about the money. And what do all of the victims want? They want money. Now, maybe they deserve it, maybe they don't. But the defense is going to go after the money, rightfully so, as motive to fabricate. It's called Rule 608 under the Rules of Evidence. Motive to fabricate. Bias. That's right. Rule 608. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be said a lot when the prosecution objects to going into what monies they've received from the estate of that guy named Jeff. Now, according to the pretrial motions, the four women who have alleged allegations against Ms. Maxwell have received millions from a compensation program set up after that guy named Jeff's death. Now, it's understood that Maxwell's lawyers could try to undermine their credibility, the alleged victims, by claiming they're after the money. Of course they will. Now, Ms. Maxwell has previously claimed that one alleged victim, Annie Farmer, fabricated her accusations because she wanted cash. Another defense is the false memory abuse defense. Elizabeth Loftus is set to testify that Miss Maxwell's alleged victims may have been influenced by media stories, the Me Too movement, and conversations with other accusers into creating false memories. And what's a false memory? Well, that means just basically making it up. And what does that mean? Well, they're doing it for the money. Now, Miss Maxwell's attorneys are also going to attempt to argue that there's a right to a fair trial that has been destroyed by all the negative media coverage of this case. People also believe that Miss Maxwell's wealthy background could sway jurors. Potential jurors were asked if they had any strong opinions about those with luxurious lifestyles. Well, the judge in this case is going to warn jurors that they need to stay away from any sort of social media, disregard anything and everything that they have heard about this case in the media, and they can only make their decision based upon the evidence that is duly admitted in a court of law. And lastly, Maxwell lawyers are set to argue that not all of the alleged victims were underage at the time of the alleged assaults. That's kind of a tricky horse to ride. Sometimes you have to pick a horse and ride it. If you're going to ride multiple horses, it can get tricky, right? You don't say, well, it didn't happen, but if it did, it was okay because they weren't minors. You really want to stick with, hey, I didn't do anything. So several of the accusers are listed as minors, victims 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the indictment. But her team will highlight that one was at least 17 when she was allegedly assaulted. And guess what? The age of consent is 16 in the UK. Now, Annie Farmer claims she was assaulted by Maxwell at that guy named Jeff's 7,500-acre ranch in New Mexico, where the age of consent is 16. It's going to be interesting indeed. Now, what happens all the time when a jury is selected? Well, somebody actually doesn't think they're going to get selected. Now, one juror has expressed financial hardship after being selected. Judge Nathan has stated that she will try to contact the first juror's employer to check whether paid leave could be extended, as the trial is expected to last several weeks. Now, remember, you don't have to get paid by your employer for jury service. Most employers do comply, and the jury fee after about the third day is usually roughly about $50. So if you need that paycheck to survive, like most people do, jury service can in fact be a hardship, but it is a civic obligation. And I assure you, the judge can be very persuasive to an employer that they're going to take reasonable accommodations to make sure that juror is paid so that they can focus on actually being a juror and focusing on the evidence. A second juror claimed that they were surprised by a spouse with a vacation in December, which would interfere with the trial dates. So the judge said the juror does not know if the vacation can be in fact be moved. So we'll have to wait and see. And that's why we have alternates, ladies and gentlemen. We will continue to update you on the case. Now, one thing a lot of people are saying, who is this judge? Okay. U.S. District Court Judge Allison J. Nathan is presiding over the case. She is 49 years old, and she has spent a decade on the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. And earlier in November, she oversaw selection, obviously, of the Maxwell trial. She's a graduate of Cornell Law School. She was appointed to the bench in 2011 to the District Court by then President Barack Obama. Prior to that, she served as an associate White House counsel and special assistant to President Obama, and later as a special counsel to New York State Solicitor General. The judge also formerly held a position of a legal clerk to Justice John Paul Stevens on the United States Supreme Court. She was also an associate at the law firm Wilmer Cutler, Pickering, Hale, and Dorr in New York, as well as in D.C. between 2002 and 2006. From 2008 to 2009, she was a Fritz Alexander Fellow at the New York University School of Law, and before that, she was a visiting assistant professor at Fordham Law School. Now, earlier in November, a recommendation from the U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the White House is said to have nominated the judge for a federal appeals court post to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The White House, in their announcement, said that if confirmed, Judge Nathan would become the second openly LGBTQ woman to serve as a federal appellate judge. And Senator Schumer is, in his recommendation, cited Judge Nathan's experience, legal brilliance, love of the rule of law, and perspective, and also called her outstanding. As we stated, the trial is estimated to last until mid-January of next year, of course, assuming they have enough jurors to get through the case. All right, here's an interesting case where one could have to decide, a jury is probably going to have to decide, is this self-defense or not? Let me tell you about it, and then I'll tell you where you can watch the video. Why can't you watch the video here? Well, YouTube will say it violates their community standards. But let me tell you about it, and then you can go watch the video if you want, because it could be a little graphic. Not bloody, but it's graphic. Okay? So on November 5th, Chad Reed was fatally shot after he went to the home of his child's mother for a custody exchange. Reed's wife, Jennifer Reed, accompanied him, but appeared to have remained in the car. When Chad Reed discovered that his son was not at the house at the scheduled pickup time, he began to argue with the boy's mother, Christina Reed. The exchange was captured on video and released this week by Jennifer's attorney. During the encounter in the front yard of the home, Christina Reed reportedly told Chad Reed that their son was not at their home, but that she would go get him. The video is not clear at some points, but the audible parts of the video indicate that the boy might have been at his maternal grandmother's home. Also, that Christina Reed may have told the boy's father to come back for him at 6 p.m. I don't care if you wanted to see him or not, Chad Reed said at one point. I get him at 3:15. If you want to see him, you see him up until 3:15. You keep trying to keep me from my son. That's what he said. Now, the former couple share two sons, aged 9 and 14, and it is unclear which son Chad Reed was intended to pick up that day. Well, Christina Reed's boyfriend has been identified as Kyle Carruth. He emerged from the home with a rifle in his hand, telling Mr. Chad Reed to get off his property. And he quotes, "I'm glad this is on video. I'm very glad," Carruth reportedly said, as the men stood close to each other, face to face, and their chests touching. Neither man raised a hand to the other at that point, but Reed reportedly dared Carruth to use his gun, saying, "Do it. You better effing use it." That's when Carruth fired the gun at Chad Reed's feet. The men struggled over the weapon, and the argument became more physical, with Chad Reed pushing Carruth away, and Carruth stumbles backwards. A woman, presumed to be Chad Reed, repeatedly said, "Call 911," but it's unclear who she was addressing. Carruth is then seen firing 2 shots at Chad Reed, who then drops to the ground. No one, including Chad Reed's wife, immediately went to help him as he lay collapsed on the ground, apparently unresponsive. Now, Jennifer Reed, still recording from her car, continued to say, "Call 911. Carruth told Jennifer Reed, "None of you should be here." And Jennifer Reed said that Christina Reed should have informed Chad Reed that the boy was not home at the scheduled pickup time, all during this conversation. As Chad Reed was lying on the ground, not moving, the video goes black, and it appears that Jennifer Reed approaches her husband, at which point she appears to understand the gravity of the situation. She says, "You really did it," she can be heard exclaiming before the video ends. Now, In the affidavit submitted on November 8th, Anne Marie Carruth stated that she was notified that her husband, William Kyle Carruth, is under investigation for the shooting and killing of his girlfriend's children's father after he attempted to pick up his children late Friday afternoon. Her knowledge of the incident is very limited at this time, and that her understanding is that the investigation is still pending. The police classified Chad Reed's death as a homicide because it was cause of the death of another. The question was it self-defense? Now, this video, it's not long, and frankly, as far as these go, are not particularly graphic, but YouTube will take it right down. So we'll put up a link, but if not, you can go to scottreich.com, where you can also take a look at the video. SCOTTREISCH.com. Next on the docket, Goodnatured Fun or an assault? Get this, all right? A 35-year-old Florida woman is facing criminal charges for allegedly giving unsolicited naked lap dances to senior citizens in a private home. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Heather Cruz allegedly entered a home on November 21st, allegedly got naked, and began grabbing and hugging the homeowner. Now, one of the house's residents told her to stop, but instead she allegedly sat naked upon the laps of two of the home's other residents. She told one of them, "You like it." According to the police reports, several of the residents were over the age of 65. When two of the residents tried to remove Cruz from the home, she allegedly grabbed one of the residents' crotch and made sexual remarks. Police eventually arrived at the home and ordered the woman to put on her shirt. After they handcuffed her and began placing her in the back of the police car, she allegedly kicked an officer in the chest while they attempted to close the door. Bad move, absolutely. Now, when police tried to put her back into the police car, a different police car, she allegedly kicked another police officer in the chest. So things just went from bad to worse. Now, Cruz has been charged with 3 counts of battery on persons 65 years of age or older. Why is that relevant? Well, they're considered at-risk adults, and, you got to be nice to older people because, well, they're older. She also has 2 counts of battery on law enforcement, 1 count of resisting with violence, burglary, and battery, exposure of sexual organs, as well as battery. It's also unclear whether Ms. Cruz knew any of the residents or what compelled her to go into the home and commit the alleged acts. Obviously, we give her the presumption of innocence. My guess is there was something with drugs or alcohol, but I can't say for certain, but I'm going to go on that limb. All right. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. Get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen. Police responded to an accidental gunshot wound call at a residence in Thomaston, Georgia. A sheriff's deputy was greeted by an EMS worker in the property's driveway. The paramedic, who was holding an unloaded handgun and a spent bullet casing in her hand, explained that the female had shot herself in the vagina accidentally. Lauren Hunter Damon has subscribers on her sexual web platform called Chatterbait. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen, where she received tips from viewers in return for the performance of the requested sexual act. Now, the owner of the gun, Jordan Allen, said he heard the gunshot from the kitchen and went to the bedroom to investigate. There he saw Damon with a small amount of blood on her leg and said that she told him that she had shot herself accidentally. The shooting has been classified by the police as reckless conduct. Now, it's unlikely that they're going to actually press criminal charges because, man, being in the paper for shooting yourself in your private areas, what worse penalty punishment could there possibly be? I don't know. All right, that's all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment below, and make sure you hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. And remember, every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, we go live. Please join us. That's all we have for today. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.